All right. Welcome to another exciting episode of Bring Your Own Security Radio. I am your host, Dave, the IT guy. If you haven't heard the show before, well, thanks for stopping by this time. If you don't know me, I'm a CISSP, MCSE, LMNOP. I've got 14 different industry certifications, certified incident handler, etc., etc. I am actively in this field. I work in the healthcare sector as a security person. I have been around IT for about 22 years now. I served in the military. I've been a consultant. I've been in-house. Hell, I even got to be on TV once on a reality survival show. So, on the Weather Channel. So, great times, good life. Now here I am with Bring Your Own Security Radio, talking to you about IT, tech, security, whatever else. We originally had scheduled a guest tonight who had to reschedule due to a conflict. We're going to pre-record his interview and then air it next week. So tonight we're going to focus on talking about BlackHat, DefCon, the Diana Initiative, and even the Las Vegas B-Sides event. All that was going on this year at the same time in the same 10-day window. So it was about all you can do or all you can eat, security, technology, trainings, briefings, hands-on, whatever. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. So let's introduce you first to the Diana Initiative. It was going on over at Caesars, the same place that DefCon was happening. It was a 2-day event this year, and they're pretty new. Their focus is bringing women into the InfoSec community. So all their presenters were women. All their attendees were women. They had a lockpick village. They had a hardware hacking village of their own. Now again, we say village. They were in a multi-room suite at Caesars, which was nice in and of itself. They thought they would get about 100 or so attendees. Ultimately, they sold out both days and were turning away over 100 registrations at the door because they literally just didn't have the space. 100 per day is what I was told. So, a great event. Girls with their fathers, girls with their mothers, as young as, I believe, 9 or 10 was the youngest that we saw. Teenagers, women who are maybe career changers, or women who are in college and wanting to, kind of break that ceiling about being in the InfoSec field. So, great event. Next year will be even bigger. So check out Diana Initiative. A great event, and we're certainly going to be back out with them next year. As a matter of fact, we are working on putting together a scholarship so that we can pay for a high school senior, female, and a parent to go to Vegas for 4 days. We're going to pay for the flight of the high school senior. We're going to pay for 4 days of hotel, and then pay for an entry into the Diana Initiative conference for both the parent and the child. So we're looking forward to being involved with getting them on the board a little bit. And if you haven't heard of them yet, check them out, Diana Initiative. Now, many of us know about B-Sides events. They go on all over the country, and Las Vegas is no different. And if you've never heard the term Hacker Summer Camp, well, that's what they call the week out in Vegas. So everything hacker oriented is going on out there. You've got the nice stuff to do, learning, trainings, tutorials, some free, some not so free, and we'll talk about that, and some not so bad. And the B-Sides events are in the great and not so bad realm. And what I mean by great, not so bad, great content. Usually you have local or regional people presenting at the different B-Sides. I've been to the one in Cincinnati, and it's awesome. But in Vegas, you also attract many others, people who are coming out for these other events and who submit to speak at B-Sides. So you get a wider range of talent at the Vegas B-Sides than you might normally get at some of the others. But the reality is they're all great, and they're far less expensive than a BlackHat to attend. So the volume of content that you get, the opportunity to meet people, to just sit around and talk, grab a beer, go out to a bar afterwards. You're in Vegas, for crying out loud, right? And just pick these people's brains. It's amazing, amazing week. I hear people talk about it all the time. Well, I'm not going out to BlackHat. It's too commercial. And you know what? It's true. BlackHat is rough. Now, BlackHat is great if your company or if you have the money to spend to sign up for the trainings, right? You go out for a training, you're usually talking $2 to $5 grand for a 3 or 4 day training event. And then you have entry into BlackHat, which can be, depending on when you sign up, $1,800 to $2,500 to get in. And that's just to walk around the vendor hall and to go listen to the free briefings, which, by the way, just because they're, quote, free doesn't mean they're bad. The briefings that these people are putting on are top of the line research by people that you may have never heard of, but I promise you'll be following on Twitter or Facebook or somewhere, Instagram, by the time the week's over. You will have a newfound awe for some of these researchers and some of these people would be kids, I'm in my 50s, and some of these upper teens, lower 20s, you're thinking, oh my goodness, right? Well, that's because they're growing up with it and I didn't. But it's crazy. Great event. So B-Sides events, and not just Vegas. Look up B-Sides, just Google B-Sides or Google B-Sides your city and see what comes up. They're in Cleveland, Chicago, St. Louis, D.C., New York, Houston, L.A., Miami, Atlanta, Lexington, Kentucky. They're all freaking over the place. Chicago. Go look them out. Go look them up and enjoy some great content. While we're on that, I'm going to kind of jump a topic a little bit and talk about Secure World, another series of regional security events. Now, Secure World Cincinnati is actually coming up here in October, and I'll be involved. So I'm not going to toot my own horn with that, but the reality is that these people put together security conferences, usually one day, in bigger cities, and they have regional talent come in. Now they have vendors, of the major tech company vendors come in and put up a booth to sell you something, but they also do presentations. And you get CEUs. So you can earn up to roughly 12 CEUs, give or take, while you're at this event. It's amazing. So Secure World, and that's who you're going to hear from with me next week, one of the founders of that entire series of events. But again, it's not the big BlackHat, and it's not the DefCon. It's a smaller regional event. It's it's hosted by a national company, but they bring local talent in. So all the people that you see at the event live right there with you. They are in the area. They work there. They live there. You're able to develop friendships and relationships, and even find people who are part of organizations like ISSA and ISC squared and different chapters of those organizations that might be in your area that you didn't know about, that you can join and go hang out. So great stuff. The B-Sides events, the Secure World events, smaller, definitely less expensive, high grade content. You've got to come check these places out. They're awesome. And hopefully I'll see you at one of them. Just look for Dave the IT guy or listen to this show and I'll tell you where I'm going to be. But I'll certainly be at Secure World Cincinnati coming up. So if you find that you're going to be there, please come say hi, check me out. Let's talk a little bit about BlackHat. So BlackHat, it's touted as the hacker conference, and it's expensive, yes. Even if your company pays for it, it's expensive for somebody. And they have these big name people coming in. They have, Google CIOs, and they have PepsiCo, and they have the NSA, and they have these other major players coming in and talking. And so the value is if you're willing to sit on your butt for 3 days and listen to people talk, it is hugely valuable. Contrary, you can also go down into the vendor space, which is huge. And when I mean huge, I mean like 2 different conference center rooms, huge. And one center has what they call arsenal tools, which are all the people that are kind of developing open source or freebie tools, and they're just looking to get some exposure. They want to demonstrate what their tool does, so they do live demonstrations for you, and then give you a chance to kind of poke around with it yourself. Then you have the big vendors. I mean, the Centrifys of the world, the Microsofts, the Ciscos, the Palo Altos, and everybody. You have up-and-comers, and you have people you never heard of. And they're giving away swag, T-shirts, coffee cups, drones, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to go and come back from Vegas with an extra full suitcase full of stuff, BlackHat is by far the place you want to be. However, if you really want to go and put your hands on things, if you don't pay for the trainings, most everything else is just a discussion at BlackHat. So you're not really putting your hands on a lot. You're talking about it. You get some information about it. Maybe you go back to your hotel or you go home later and you download it and you play with it. But that's kind of it. If you want to actually do stuff, like put your hands on it, touch it, feel it, figure out what stuff does, DefCon is the place to go. Now, DefCon, if you're not familiar with what it is or what's going on out there, let me kind of slow down a little bit and talk a little bit about a wide range of things about DefCon. First of all, DefCon is, highly touted as the black hats, right? That's where the true bad people go to hack things. And it's true. There are some bad people there that will try to do some bad things there. But that's the exception to the rule. It's not the norm. The people that run DefCon, the people that run DefCon, the volunteers that they have, they call them goons to help them put this stuff together. They are very, very on top of things. They have text and phone numbers and all kinds of ways 24/7 for you to report something, right? You're getting harassed by somebody. You're being sexually harassed. You're being touched inappropriately. You're anything, you can report it and get help. The hotel is not treating you right. The casino floor is doing something wrong. Whatever. You can get help. These people are trained and have contacts, and they know what they're doing. So it's really well run for the volume of things that it is in the space that it's shoved into. This year, 26,000 plus was the announced attendance at Caesars, and a couple of other hotels had spillover events. This year at Caesars and at other hotels, because I stayed at the Stratosphere, which is at the end of the strip, nothing to do with Caesars, right? I did not do anything to identify myself as a hacker or anything else. But during that week, while you're there of the Black Hat, the DefCon, the Hacker Summer Camp Week, apparently the hotels have instituted this new rule about the do not disturb sign on your door. And if it's there more than 2 days in a row, that automatically elicits a visit by security of that particular property. Now, the thinking is you're inside there doing something you shouldn't be doing, or you're hiding things that you might have stolen from others, or you've got some big layout of servers and wires and cables everywhere that you don't want anybody to see because you're trying to hack the planet, right? Hack the planet, hack Vegas, hack a hotel. So they're very, very scary. Now, I just don't like people coming in my room that I don't know while I'm gone for fear of stealing things, right? So I had mine on there. Well, on the night of my second night, about 9:30, I got a knock on the door from security at the Stratosphere. And what they told me was, well, because you didn't have your room cleaned and nobody came in, we just need to come in and do a welfare check. And we have to dial this certain code from your phone that shows we were here. So they basically walked in, was looking around as they walked in. There's two of them. And picked up the phone. They dialed some code to, I guess, elicit some automation that security was in my room. When I asked them why they were doing it, they're like, well, it's, what if you fell out of the tub or you were in here, alone and hurt yourself and could not reach the phone? That way we know to check on you. I'm like, that's a fair reason, although we all know it's not the real reason that you guys are doing this, right? So we know that you don't do this during any other week of the year. And then they kind of stumbled on themselves, etc., right? Whatever. Well, why is this story relevant? So at Caesars, I guess some bigger issues happened. Now, I'm not fully privy to all the details, so I'm going to tell you what I've heard, and then I'm going to tell you to go out to the DefCon website because there's more information there, and you can go and look at the details for yourself. But apparently some security people got a little rambunctious and went into somebody's room, started going through personal belongings. Theoretically, somebody might have took something that they shouldn't have taken. A security guard, right? Taking, I guess, something or another. Now, again, I don't know what's true and what's not. But what I do know is this. Starting next year, DefCon is no longer at Caesars. It's going to be over at Paris, the Bowie, Planet Hollywood, and one other hotel that I can't think of right now off the top of my head. So everything's moving. So it was that big of a deal. And I know the DefCon people really put up a big issue with Caesars management people. And I guess the only resolution they could come up with was, we'll move an event. I mean, can you consider that? Caesars has 26,000 attendees at DefCon. Caesars, the hotel, and surrounding properties are sold out during Hacker Summer Camp. You just lost 26,000 people walking through your casino doors, through your conference center doors, because of some rule that is not well defined and people are hiding behind. So it'll be interesting to see what next year brings, but I implore you, go out to the DefCon site, and there's a link that says transparency, and it tells you things like how many people called their goons for assault or sexual assault. I think there was one sexual assault report this year, and there was a couple sexual harassment reports and one theft report and things like that. I mean, people take those using the goons seriously, and those guys are, you don't just volunteer and say, oh, I'm a goon. I mean, you get put through the ringer to be one of them, and you have to shadow one, and you have to do a lot of stuff. So it's not just, oh, I'm a goon. No. So go check them out. So that was an interesting beginning or whatever as DefCon was going on. But this year and today specifically is important. We all know about the Supreme Court Kavanaugh hearings that happened today, Thursday, September 27th, 2018. And it's unfortunate that we had that issue go on in our government. And I'm not here to be political or talk about that. But something that was a little bit lesser known also happened today at a congressional hearing that had nothing to do with Kavanaugh. And that was the DEF CON Voting Village had a meeting with a Senate committee, and the whole meeting was based on the hacker voting village at DefCon this year. So different companies had their voting machines in attendance out there at DefCon, and people were spending days, hours, whatever, attempting to hack and document their hacks, to talk about how these machines are still so vulnerable to outside interference. Alex Padilla, who is the Secretary of State for California, was one of the elected officials that was actually physically at DefCon and was a keynote speaker out there at the Hacker Village, Voting Village. But today, when this report was released to Congress, they were in Vegas. In Washington, D.C. I got Vegas on the brain. They were in Washington, D.C. They were with many senators, Congress, etc. And they spent time going through things like supply chain insecurity, remote attacks, and what's possible. Is hacking actually faster than voting? And the hacks that don't get fixed. So things that, hey, we're telling you about these, and these vendors are not fixing them. And the people who put this report together is amazing. I mean, they some of it was their own research, some of it included things that happened out at Vegas, and there were more than 30 pieces of those voting machines out there. So I tell you that if you could check out at BYOS Radio on Twitter, I tweeted a link today to this full report, so you can read it in its entirety. It is roughly 50 pages long, and it includes screenshots of the actual hacks and some of the actual documentation and some of the people who spoke at this hacker village, and some of the people who actually made the hacks. So, man, scary stuff. You know, that's just one village. If you've never been to DefCon is kind of divided up in these different villages. So, depending on your interest, you may never get to any of the other villages. You know, you might be interested in, so they had voting village. There was medical device hacking, which caught my attention. They were down there hacking IV pumps and pacemakers and heart monitors, remote heart monitors, like a patient laying in a bed, and the nurses at the nursing station see it. And they actually demonstrated a hack that did not take long, that could fool a nurse into thinking a patient was still normal when they flatlined, or that they were flatlined when they were normal, causing them to maybe administer a drug. Because what if a patient was just sleeping and then it looked like they were flatlining? You know, the code team would come running in and possibly start CPR, which would break your ribs if it's done right, or administer drugs into your IV to get your heart started, but your heart's already going, right? So then they make it worse. They can actually kill you by trying to save you, just by somebody hacking in and make it look like something else. So they can hack IV pumps and tell the pumps that the medicine that's hanging there is a different kind of medicine, and to change how fast it delivers a dose and things like that. So very scary stuff. I mean, they had Lockpick Village. I had some fun down there. They have tons of different locks, and you could spend hours down there learning. I mean, they have volunteers that are experienced lock pickers, and they will teach you. They had a big challenge, like basically a bomb. So it was a fake bomb that was set up, and you, as a hacker, as a bomb disposal person, your job was to defuse the bomb without blowing it up, and it was based on time. And there was one team that got so close, but they ultimately tried it 29 times in a row, each time trying to learn something from the previous. But at least by the time I walked away, they had not figured out how to defuse the bomb without it blowing up. virtually, of course. So very interesting. At Lockpick Village, presentations of how to pick locks, vendors selling different practice locks or lockpick sets. Um, they have the Hardware Hacker Village is basically a bunch of tables with soldering stations. And if you've never seen the DefCon badges, each year is something kind of special, and you're supposed to hack the badge and figure out different things the badge can do. And people are coming in with badge kits, breadboards and just components, and then they go sit down there and they build their hardware badges, blinky lights and or speakers or message boards that program to say something as they walked around, or Wi-Fi blockers, people building Wi-Fi blockers, and it was just crazy. But you also had the opportunity, if you had never soldered before, to sit there with somebody that was experienced, and they would take their time and give you a very small little badge, blinky light badge thing, and teach you how to solder onto that, all the little different components. And by the time you started, you had a box with parts, and by the time you ended, you had your own little badge that you created out of the box of parts. So what else was out there? Hacker Village, Hardware Hacker Village. You had, the Drone Village, so people from the Drone Racing League and others. So if you had a drone, it was people that were doing a variety of things. So they were hacking drones. So they were either making, their own drone. They were customizing off-the-shelf drones, bigger engines, bigger batteries, more, taking some things off and adding things more, adding a bunch of lights to make it look cool in the dark, stronger motors, bigger blades, whatever. People just kind of messing with it. And then they had a little bit of a demo where you could fly different drones inside a tent, a controlled airspace, and so that was kind of cool. So you had that. You had there's so many villages, and you get, again, if you really want to go and spend time at each one of these villages, you just get lost in the time. I mean, you look up, you're like, crap, I've been here 3 hours. I wanted to go hear this speaker or that speaker, and you really find yourself kind of like having to take a few minutes and kind of setting up your schedule and deciding, what is it I'm going to do? So, BlackHat DefCon, that's the chance. That's the stuff you want. All right, well, that's enough. It's 9:27 here in the East. I am Dave, the IT guy. This is Bring Your Own Security Radio. I want to say thank you for tuning in. And next week we'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern again. But check out DefCon's. Check out the media server. So it's media.defcon.org org and com. But on that media server, videos of all the different presentations. They had Social Engineering Village, which, my God, is hilarious and phenomenal. The after parties, whose slide is it anyway, by Danny Akaski, is an after party to not be missed. But go look at the media server and look at the photos, listen to the presentations, watch the presentation videos. Yeah, man, you got days worth of content to go watch out there. So you definitely want to take your time and go do that. Make sure that you check out the Secure World events near you. Go look for any of the B-Sides events that might be in your region. Don't miss those. Those are great as well. And again, if you're ever in the Cincinnati region, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to tell you what I know or who I know or introduce you to somebody if I know somebody that can help you. That's not me. And whatever. I'm here to help. I am Dave. Thank you for taking the time to spend with me on your Thursday. You can download these podcasts from iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, just about everywhere. Listen live from Spreaker app or from the website, bringyourown.security.net, if you ever want to just tune in live. Again, I'm Dave. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, we'll see you. Bye-bye.